So we're here at the Red Pill Expo with Mindy Patterson with the Cavalry Group. And Mindy, tell us a little bit about what you're involved in. I know you're looking into some of the animal rights activists and things like that. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, our company is a member-based company providing assistance and advocacy to protect animal owners and animal-related businesses against the onslaught of animal rights activism that has infiltrated into local government, state legislatures, and even in Congress. And so we work to fight back legislatively, legally, and also at the PR level on behalf of our members. We advocate for animal ownership and enterprise, which is basically the cornerstone of private property.
And so what are these animal rights activists doing, and what are some of their arguments, and why are they dangerous to freedom?
Well, what's really deceptive about what they do. First of all, they raise money by betraying Americans into believing that they care about animals, and they take everyone's money, all these well-intended animal lovers, they take their money and then they use it against animal ownership and private property by using that money on lawyers and lobbyists in State House and at the federal level. But also what they're doing legislatively is they pass these laws that pretend to be or masquerade as bills that are there to stop cruelty to animals. We do not have an animal cruelty crisis in our country. We already have laws in place that protect against that. And so basically they're preying on people who genuinely love animals like we all do, but what they do is they embed language in this legislation that chips away at due process. And I can't tell you how many bills are passing at the local, state, and federal levels that are whittling away at our Constitution, and they're just eroding our Constitution and our right to due process, allowing animal control to peek over your fence and steal your property at their sole discretion. They're creating the definitions, and the bottom line is we're allowing these radical groups who know nothing about animal care, zero. They just have an ideology, and if you don't align with their ideology, they bully you and they harass you, and then they steal your ability to make a living or own animals by passing laws in your local government or in your state level by eliminating your ability to raise animals or work with animals. And I mean, at breakneck speed, for example, they've been passing ordinances at the local level to ban exhibiting of exotic animals at the fair. I mean, why do you go to the fair? You go to the fair to see animals. And so they're chipping away under this false pretense that it's cruel to exhibit an animal, that these animals are kept in captive situations, in human care. Well, all of these things are under siege under this false ideology where we've been keeping and practicing animal husbandry for centuries. And for centuries, people who own and raise and breed animals have been lauded and revered. But today, people who do these things are now in the fight for their very existence. And it all ties to ownership of private property and our Constitution.
And so I would imagine this is probably a threat to agricultural producers. Talk a little bit about the danger to ranchers and farmers who are out there trying to make a living this way.
Well, absolutely. Again, under false pretense that under the animal rights ideology, they don't want you to own these animals or have them in human care at all. But what's more is they feather into the environmental extremist movement as well. They've joined hands to stop the cattle ranchers and the food producers from doing what they do to feed us and feed the world because, they're just chipping away saying that farmers and ranchers aren't paying enough attention to animal welfare standards, when nothing could be further from the truth. Under the principles of the free market, it's in your best interest to care well for your animals, otherwise you don't have a product to sell, and under the profit motive, you really have, it's just in your best interest, because if you want to make a living, you have to take good care of your animals. However, a lot of people fall for this. Legislators are falling for this false facade, again, from people who know nothing about animal husbandry. And they're passing laws to take away our rights to care for animals. And when I say the environmentalists are getting involved, they're saying that cows are destroying the earth and, basically using up our natural resources to provide for the meat industry. And nothing could be further from the truth. Nothing could be further from the truth. You know what really doesn't make sense is that the very people who are opposed to this are creating meat in a petri dish, Frankenmeat. So that's what we have. That's what we're going to have in lieu of real food. And these ranchers who grow and raise our food should be lauded and revered for what they do. And instead, they're getting thrown under the bus, pushed off their land, thrown in jail, animals stolen. Is this America?
It's absolutely nuts. Who are some of the worst culprits? So what are some of the organizations that are doing this? And do they have connections to, you mentioned the environmental extremist movement. Are they linked to the sustainable development types? And is this a big network? Or?
It is. They're all tied together. And collectively, the animal rights industry, as I like to call it, is nearly $1 billion industry globally. The main culprits, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, is a really bad one. They say they care about animals and nothing is further from the truth. They use their millions of dollars that they collect on the backs of well-intended animal lovers. They take their money and then they use it against them to pass laws to destroy animal ownership. Millions of dollars they take in from people. The Humane Society of the United States is really one of the most active in the United States legislatively. They are behind so many pieces of legislation to chip away at our Constitution, and they also collaborate, and they themselves have platforms that are rooted in environmentalism to destroy animal agriculture. No question about it. All under the ruse of animal welfare standards and environmental standards. Again, these people are not experts in either. I turn to the ranchers, I turn to the farmers and the people who work with these animals on a daily basis to know what's best for these animals because it's in their best interest. And these organizations that rake in millions of dollars from donations and sit behind a desk, they don't know anything about raising animals. And they are mostly working a way to destroy our American way of life.
Wow, intense. So what do we do to fight back against this?
Pay attention to what's going on in your local legislature, in your state, and at the local level with even your school board, your planning and zoning, your city council, county councils. Pay attention. These laws are passing through in the dark of night, and oftentimes, even because we do pay attention, they'll get introduced on a Thursday and voted on a Tuesday. It's just the way it is, and so I urge everyone to either become a member of ours and contribute to our ability to fight back, or pay attention to what's going on in your own backyard and organize your own groups to fight back. It's essential.
So how do people become a member of your organization? Where do they find you? Do you have a website?
We do. thecavalrygroup.com. And it's spelled Cavalry. It's not spelled like the church. It's spelled like the military infantry. People get that mixed up. But just click the Join tab, and if you don't need to have the legal protection which we offer our members, you can become an associate member just to be a part of the fight and be on our mailing list and be a part of what we do.
Awesome. And before we began, we were talking a little bit about this massive importation of people from Somalia and other countries to small American towns. I think you've observed some of this. Could you tell us a little bit about what you saw?
I would be delighted. It's alarming. I'm not involved necessarily in this aspect, but because I am in tune with what's going on in rural America because of what we do, my husband and I were coming home from a trip in Minneapolis and taking back roads home through rural Minnesota into Iowa. And small town after small town and farmland, we noticed an abundance of trash and people who were apparently Somali refugees just wandering the streets, full burqas. It just town after town, we noticed this insurgency. And finally, after several towns, we had to refuel. And my husband talked to the convenience store owner when we were refueling, and he said, "What is going on here? Do you own the store?" And he said, "I do." And he said, "What's happening in your town?" And with tears in his eyes, this man shared with my husband that they've been invaded. He said, "We did not ask for this, and they are ruining my town. They have ruined our rural America where I live. We now have to lock our doors. Crime has increased exponentially. There's trash everywhere, crime. These people do not assimilate. They're not speaking English. They don't care about our American lifestyle or way of life. They don't even know what the Constitution is." And so he said, we feel like victims. We're here like sitting ducks. And we've had to face this insurgency in our town. And apparently, he also shared with my husband that they're being dropped into rural America to work at these agriculture plants. And in this particular town, they were working at a chicken processing plant just 3 miles up the road.
Wow, it sounds like there's a war going on against rural America. Do you think that's too strong a term?
No. I have no question in my mind. I think it's been going on for a long time, and I think this is unfortunately going to put the nail in the coffin. And we have to wake up and be alert. We need to alert the Trump administration that this is happening. So I think we need to take a step back and shut off the faucet so we can regroup, take a breath, and seriously, this is why he is trying to, increase our immigration policies, and it's so needed for our sovereignty, for our safety, for the protection of the American citizens. It's critical. No, I don't think it's an exaggeration at all. It's alarming.
Yeah. Wonderful. Anything else you want to say, Mindy, that we haven't asked about?
Thank you for having me.
Hey, well, thank you for being with us.
Loved it.